Today I wanted to talk to you guys about the series that I am currently working on, or the book series that I have recently finished. I'm really enjoying doing these videos every so often. I'm doing them roughly every quarter to maybe just over. It depends when I have enough series to talk about, really, because I have sort of ebbs and flows with my series reading. Right now I'm kind of in an ebb, I would say. I'm not doing great. I had some really ambitious plans in my last video that I spoke about for a series TBR, and it just did not go to plan, much like how my fringe is not going to plan today. Bloody hell. This is what I get for not blow drying it. Let's just try and get it out of the way. So I want to talk about the series that I have recently finished. I want to talk about the series that I have recently DNF'd, because that kind of counts as finished. Series that I've started, series that I'm still working on, and then also my series plans for the rest of the quarter. Let's start on a positive note and talk about the series that I have recently finished, starting with the Rolling in the Deep series. I read the novella prequel to Into the Drowning Deep. This one is called Rolling in the Deep. It's a very, very short book. It's a very short audiobook as well, and that's how I listen to it. This is a sci-fi killer mermaid horror book, and I really enjoyed the first one, Into the Drowning Deep, a few years ago, and I kind of just wanted to finish it off and also get back into some sci-fi horror, and so that's what I did. Really glad that I finished this one off, and I really hope that Into the Drowning Deep does get a sequel or something along the same lines by Mira Grant, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. I also started and completed Sweet Tooth. I picked the first volume up on a whim from the library because I was kind of just in the mood for a random graphic novel series, and the artwork looked quite good. I'm quite picky about the artwork in my graphic novels that I read, and this one looked decent, so I picked it up and I really enjoyed it. I got really attached to all of the characters, so I immediately requested volume 2. I did request volume 3, but I think someone stole it from the library, so it never arrived, and I received an apology from the library saying it's no longer on their system, which sucked. But I did discover that it's available on Kindle Unlimited, so it didn't take me long to, you know, pick it up and read it. I finished off the entire series. I loved it so much. I won't go into detail on what it's about here, but basically there has been a virus and now children are being born with kind of animal features, like antlers, sharp teeth, wings, and they're kind of being experimented on. It's a very dark series, but very good. And then the third and final book series that I finished was the Natural series. I binge read the entire thing last month. I think it was in June. And I ended up loving it. I started the series back when it first came out. I only read the first book and I had been meaning to carry on with it for years, and I finally did so, and it was so good. It's a YA series, really easy to read. I got really attached to the characters. I think that's the thing. I really enjoy reading series where I can get attached to the characters and follow them along for like 4 or 5 books. If I don't get attached to the characters in the first book, then I'm just not going to carry on with the series. So I think that's most of the reason why I didn't carry on with these series. I DNF'd them after the first or second books. The first one was The Girl Who Can Move Shit With Her Mind. I mentioned this in my May wrap up, I think. I just couldn't get into it. I didn't really care about the characters, so I didn't really want to carry on with the series. I also DNF'd The Wolf of Oren Yarrow, and this one isn't necessarily because I didn't like the characters, it's because I didn't like the writing style, and the plot was just so boring and draggy. Didn't love the book, so I DNF'd the series. This is a real shame because I thought this was going to be like a badass female bitch queen situation, but it wasn't. In my opinion, it was really quite boring. I also DNF'd The City of Nightmares. This is the first in a duology. I DNF'd the series, but I did finish the book, and I only gave it 3 stars, so I really can't be bothered to carry on with the series. Didn't really care about the characters. I can barely remember the plot, and I read it just last month. So yeah, that's a sign to me that I shouldn't carry on with the series. And then, somewhat controversially, I've also DNF'd the Powerless series. I didn't like Powerless. I thought it was a load of rubbish. It copied a bunch of stuff from various other books and it didn't do it well. So yeah, I'm not carrying on with the series. I really don't want to read it. I should probably read it so that I can recap at least the second book for recap tins, because people do appreciate my recaps, but I don't want to. I really don't want to. I do have some series that I started and that I'm currently working on. The first one being The Housemaid. I've read books 1 and 2 in that series. I read those in June. I will be carrying on with the series, but I don't really feel the need to do so immediately. The third book in the trilogy or series only just came out, and I worry if I read it immediately it's going to be really repetitive, because the second book was basically just a recycled version of the first book. So I'm worried that the third book is going to be the same. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap, but it's on Kindle Unlimited, I believe, so it shouldn't be too difficult for me to pick it up on a whim if I feel like it. I also started rereading the Unwind series. So previously I've read books 1, 2 and 3 and just need to read book 4, but I couldn't remember what happened in book 3 and I hadn't done a recap of it, so I started rereading and I absolutely loved the first 2 books. The first one has one of the most disturbing horror scenes I have ever read about. It has really stuck with me over the years, and it's still absolutely horrific upon a reread. Book 2 was also really, really good, really intriguing, and book 3, again, I just did not vibe with it, and I must not have done the first time I read it either, because I didn't recap it. I think I must have skim read it. It was a really, really bad book compared to the other 2 in the series, so I do need to finish this off and read the 4th book. I'll talk about that in a bit. I'm still working on the Murderbot books. I previously read books 1, 2 and 3 in the series, and now I'm rereading them because my husband is really into it now, and we're listening to them on our commute into work. So we've listened to number 1 together. We're in the middle of number 2. I will need to reread 3, and then I can finally carry on with the series with him. It's a really, really good series, really funny bunch of novellas. I do have physical copies as well, you can see them behind me, but I'm really enjoying the audiobooks, so that's how I'm going to carry on with those. I also continued with Something is Killing the Children, which is another graphic novel series. I read volume 6 this time around and really enjoyed it. I have just gotten volume 7 from NetGalley, which I hope to read this weekend, so that's another tick. I think this is going to be the end of an arc that the series has been working towards, so I'm really looking forward to getting to book 7, and I loved volume 6 so much. I need to buy my own copies. I have been getting them from the library, but I want to buy some bind-ups, I think, once I'm able to spend money again. Currently I'm trying to save a bunch of money, so I probably shouldn't buy them. I also read Good Girl Bad Blood by Holly Jackson, the second book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. This was a reread as well for me, so as you can see I've done a lot of rereading this past year. I would really like to finish this trilogy off soon, but the purpose of rereading book 2 was so that I can do a recap of it, because people have loved my first recap of the first book and very much appreciated it, so I'm going to do a recap for book 2 as well. And it's really good timing because the show has just finished. I believe it was all uploaded to iPlayer. I've seen the first 2 episodes of the show and I'm a bit scared to continue, so I'll need to do that soon, and then hopefully I'll do a recap of the second book fairly quickly, and then I can finally finish off the series for a second time. And I do wonder how I'm going to react to the third book this time around, because the first time it kind of like shocked me so much that I didn't really know what to think, but I'm very excited to carry on with it. And that's pretty much it for what I've been working on recently. I think my series reading has been all right for the past quarter or so. I didn't really stick to many of my plans that I had at the end of my previous video. I'm okay with that. I really like to mood read. What I am going to do, however, is create another TBR right now and share that with you, so I can tell you about my series reading plans for the rest of the year, or at least the rest of the quarter, and then we can check in again in a few months' time to see how I'm doing. So moving on to my TBR, I do obviously have a bunch of series that I want to start, but let me first tell you about the series that I'm planning on finishing this quarter. There aren't too many because I need to be sensible. I don't really want to be too ambitious because I will just disappoint everyone, mainly myself. I don't think anyone else really cares. So I'm planning on at least finishing 3 series in the next quarter. The first one being the Bright Falls series, I think this is Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. It's the 3rd book in the companion trilogy. I'm counting it as a series, even though I don't think you need to read them in order. Each woman in this book gets her own queer love story. I just think it would be nice to finish it off because I do really enjoy these. I also want to finish off the Unwind series because I cannot go another year having read the 3rd book, not remembering it, and then not reading the 4th. I just need to finish it and then get it off my shelf. I'm really disappointed in the way this series is ending, and I'm worried that I'm not going to like this, which is kind of why I'm putting it off, but at the same time I want to see how it does. Maybe he will pull through, deliver a really good series ending. And then the last one is one that I mentioned on my last series goals video, and that is Illusionary. This is the sequel to Incendiary. It's just a duology. I remember really enjoying the 1st book when I read it a few years ago, so I'd really like to read this one now that I'm in the mood for fantasy again. I'm going to need to read a recap of the 1st book, which I believe I've done, and let's hope that it jogs my memory because I can't remember anything that happened in the 1st book, and I no longer own it either, which is really frustrating, but this is why I shouldn't leave series until years later. So those are the 3 that I want to finish. I should be able to do that quite easily. I could even do that in 1 week if I wanted to, but you know, why try? And then there are some series that I would really like to continue on with that I've already started and that I'm really enjoying. I've mentioned all of these in the past because I'm too ambitious with my goals. So I'm kind of repeating myself here, but you know, you probably don't watch every single one of my videos, so maybe you haven't seen me mention them. The first one is The Tyranny of Faith. This is the sequel to The Justice of Kings. It's the 2nd book in the Empire of the Wolf series, and I really enjoyed the 1st one. I'm a bit worried about how the series is going to end, but I have seen some people that my views tend to align with, or my tastes, books rather. Really enjoyed the third book, so I'm looking forward to reading this one and continuing on with the series. I don't think the paperback of the last one comes out for another few months, so I do have some time because I want my series to match. I want to get to this. I also, of course, need to carry on with the Murderbot series. This is book 2 and book 3. I'm listening to these on Audible or on Spotify as audiobooks, so I'm at least going to reread these two. I'm already in the middle of the second book. I've got like 2 hours left of the audiobook for this one, and then we'll read the third one together, and then at some point start the fourth, so I'm going to be actively working on that. I also really want to read Bitter Blue because I want to carry on with the Graceling series. This is the third book, and I think there are 5 or 6 out now. There was a massive gap, like years, in between Kristen Cashore releasing these. She released the first 3 books, the first one being Graceling, the second one being Fire, which was a prequel to Graceling, and this is a sequel to Graceling set a few years later, 8 years to be exact. So yeah, I'm interested to see how the next books after this hold up, and if they're sort of a similar vibe or if they're really different. For another series that I want to continue on with is Caliban's War. So this is the second book in the Expanse series. I really want to get into this. It's a super long space opera series. I know that I'm going to love it, but it's just really intimidating because it is so long, not just like the book itself, but the series as a whole. But I would really, really like to carry on, and I've been saying this for months now. This is becoming my Broken Earth all over again, which I am casually ignoring right now because, don't shout at me, I am scared to finish it. So yeah, we're not mentioning Broken Earth in any of these series videos right now, but I'd really like to carry on with Caliban's War. And then I have a bunch of series that I'd really like to start because I love starting series. I hate finishing them, in case you couldn't tell. Final books actually scare me because if they don't hold up after I have invested tons of time into them, it's just disappointing. So that's why I don't like to finish series, but I do really enjoy starting them. So I've got a bunch of series here that I'd really like to get into. The first one being One Dark Window. This is the first book in a duology. I've got no idea what this is about, but it's all over TikTok. It says here that the main character is a monster, something about magic and a nightmare, a gothic fantasy debut. Everyone seems to love this, so I'm hoping I will too. I also really want to restart A Deadly Education. I did read this a few years ago. At least I read the first like 50 pages and I was just confused. So I'm going to try again. This is a really nice edition of it actually. It's got a map and everything. So this is the first book in the Scholomance trilogy, and I'm hoping that I like it. I really want to. I also want to pick up The Wolf Den, which is the first in a trilogy. It's a historical fiction trilogy set in Rome. I did start this one a few years back as well. I think I made it like 50 pages in, and I didn't like the dialogue between the characters. I thought it felt too modern, but I'm willing to try again. So if I enjoy this one, I'll be buying the rest of the series at some point. I would also love to start Her Majesty's Royal Coven because, first of all, this cover, bright pink, I love it. This is, I believe, about a department within the government which is led by witches, I think. And I know there's a sequel and also a prequel to this, I believe, and my friends love it, so I'm hoping that I will as well. I also would love to read Immortal Longings. The second book in this series is coming out in September, October time, I think. I really want to read this and then recap it. I can't remember what it's about. It's Chloe Gong's adult fantasy debut. Absolutely stunning, by the way. This is the Waterstones edition. It says that it's inspired by Antony and Cleopatra, Shakespeare's version. I'd also really want to start Kings of the Wild. This, I don't really know what it's about apart from these people getting back together, but I do have the second book for this one on my shelf already, so this would be a really good one to sort of marathon binge read if I want to. Another one that I really want to start is Empire of Silence. This is the first in a series of I think 6 books. My husband has read the first one, this one, and has really enjoyed it, but he didn't carry on with the series. Not really sure why. I know that some of my friends have really not enjoyed this, but I have hope that I will. As always with all of these, this is like a sci-fi sort of fantasy book, I think. Finally, the last one that I would really like to start, there are probably more, but this is the last one I'm going to feature, is The Ninth Reign. This is the first book in the, can't remember the series name, but it's a fantasy series and my friends love it, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one at some point as well. I don't know if you guys do this, but I always check the font for these fantasy books to see if it's something that I'm actually in the mood to read right now, because if it's tiny font, like, that's going to put me off, so you need to be careful. Yeah, those are all the series plans I have for the next quarter or so. Obviously I'm not going to get to all of these, but we can pretend. Let me know what your series reading plans are in the comments down below. Let me know how you've been doing. A book series something that you really try to tackle, or do you just sort of go with the flow? Like I said, I really hate finishing series, but I really love starting them, so I'm really hoping that some of these from this to start list end up being ones that really hook me so I can get into it and really enjoy the characters. So yeah, let me know which ones you think I will enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you all in the next video. Bye.